Okay. So, hi guys.
Hey, hi.
Hello. Can you
Hey,
guys hear
Hi,
me?
Chrissy.
hi.
Yes, we
Yep, we
can
can
hear
hear
you.
you.
It's so much of a pleasure meeting you guys
Same
today.
here.
Great minds, directors in your own right, and producers in your own right. Um, Today we are going to be discussing something interesting. So, guys, good evening, and thank you very much for joining us on Let's Talk Film, where we mostly meet um, film creatives and try and talk about some industry matters and see how best we can all contribute our voices as filmmakers, reshaping and building the African cinema as we all would want and we are all dreaming about. So today I have with me some amazing directors. We are going to be looking at a very critical issue, um, reshaping the African cinema narrative. What is the director's perspective? Over the weeks, I've been speaking to a number of people in various sectors of the industry. And today I want to just take a look at directors. What is their contribution to the whole reshaping and building of the African cinema? And so today I have three wonderful panelists from different countries. Today's the first time I'm doing three different countries. Mostly I do maybe one or two. Today I have three. I have Ghana, I have Nigeria, I have Namibia. Hello guys.
Hi. Hi, Kwasi. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having us.
Great.
I am
great,
glad
beautiful.
to tag along.
Okay. So what we're going to do is that we are going to mute our mics, and when it's your turn to speak, you just turn off. I'll just ask you to just turn on your mic, and then you just kick it off. And so we're going to start with a quick introduction. Whoever wants to go first, I don't mind. I'm a feminist to say. No fight. So, anyways, so who do we start with? Desiree, do you want to go first?
Hi, everybody.
So,
my name is Desiree
great, go
Kahikopo,
on.
and I am a director producer from Namibia, and I recently did my first feature film, a debut feature film that is still up to be released, but has done a few international and festivals and won 2 or 3 awards. So, and yeah, I'm happy to be here and talk film.
Great. Nice to have you here. How is Namibia? The corona, the COVID and everything.
Well, I mean, we started off with really low numbers, but over the course of a few weeks now, I mean, numbers have been sort of like increasing. But I think we are on 36 now, 36 infections, no deaths, and I think 16 or 18 recoveries.
Okay, but what? Yeah. So are there now stricter measures on the filming?
Oh yeah.
What is the ministry doing?
Right now, obviously, I mean, with the state of emergency, everything was put on hold. Every industry, every sector was put on hold, and obviously the country went on lockdown. So a lot of the businesses had to stop operating, of course, and, only the essential ones, we just, that had to sort of like the food suppliers and those things that had to be operational. So a lot of the industries from tourism to, especially the creative industry, all of that had to go on hold. So, but we have, I think 2 weeks ago, we went into stage 3, where a few businesses now can open with limited numbers of people, and film can resume, but obviously with health guidelines and and all of the stuff. But it's still not fully operational at the moment. And yeah, and I mean, a lot of people really lost quite a bit, with the state of emergency, especially with the creative industry, because it was also it's not an essential or at any point recognized by the government. So we couldn't really even just, get any part of the stimulus packages, just nothing. So we were literally left to fend for ourselves at this point. So, yeah.
That's another topic for another day. I think we will take time and talk about the COVID and its implication on this whole film industry and what the way forward is. But today we are here to talk about reshaping the African cinema narrative. Emma, how are you doing?
Hi, Kwasi. I'm very well. Thank you for having me once again. I'm doing absolutely fine.
Great, great. Kindly just enlighten us about who you are and then what you've done in the industry and, just a brief background about yourself.
My name is Emma Edosio Deelen. I am a filmmaker a film director and producer, to be specific, based in Lagos, Nigeria. I started making films in 2006, and over the years, I have worked with some well-known brands here in Nigeria, such as brands like Ebony Life TV and Danny TV, where I have made movies and television shows, directed television series for them. When I'm not making films, I work as a video journalist with the BBC. My recent film, Kasala, was screened in almost 13 international film festivals, and it won 9 international awards. And I'm really excited to be here to share my experience as a director and as a filmmaker from this continent.
Great, beautiful, beautiful. What is your version of Nigeria? How are you guys dealing with the whole COVID? What are some of the implications on the creative industry there?
I mean, I think Nigeria, like most part of Africa, the creative industry has been hit bad. We are an industry that, Nollywood is one of the biggest industries in Africa, that is known for taking the bull by the horns and just picking up cameras and going out there to film and to create opportunities for ourselves. But even with that level of success, in some ways we are not seen as essential. I mean, you live in a country where there are a lot of problems, and the government has a lot of it on its hand. And I kind of think that they believe that, oh, Nollywood, you guys can take care of yourself. Let's focus on other, industries. So, it's been really hard for the filmmakers, where 90% or even more have, saw their source of livelihoods held, shut down for 2-3 months. So it was quite hard on the film industry. But at the moment, productions have started. I think the ban has been lifted up off the filmmaking industry, and work has started. And I trust my people. We've gone straight into it to create with the same vigor and passion and tenacity as we've always had. Yeah.
Well, Nigerians are known for their tenacity and their quick action spirit.
Yes.
And so we can trust that they would if they are on set shooting now.
They're back on set right now.
They can't come and kill themselves. Sayibu. Sayibu.
Yeah.
Great man. Nice to meet you, bro. Once again, what's up?
Yeah, we're still here, man. Just learning everything one day at a time.
Great. How's the family, man? How's the girl?
Oh, she's great. She was giving me backup support a few minutes ago with her crying, but she's cool now.
That's great. That's great. Anyway, so let's know a little bit. Let's talk about yourself. I know you don't like to blow your own horns. I know, but tell us about Sayibu, what you've done, and just brief us a little.
Yeah. All right. Cool. I like to say I'm a student of this thing. I am a filmmaker, of course. I write and direct, and I've produced or partially produced most of what I've done up to this point. But started off with a short film called This Line of Work, which I kind of did it over the weekend with a few friends, but then it went to a few festivals and did quite well, so it kind of got me to take this thing more seriously. And then I came back to Ghana and did the Northern King, and that was kind of how I got my first distribution sort of deal with Amazon and stuff like that, with the Amazon Direct video and stuff like that. So from then, I've just sort of been learning still. Another thing I did was Slumber Party, which I honestly don't like talking about too much. So, and now we're doing Adam the First, which is a science fiction film that I'm extremely excited about. And I'm very, very happy that we get to have this conversation. So yeah, that's sort of a little in a nutshell. But ultimately, I'm a student. That's really what it is.
Great to have you guys here. And thank you for honoring my invitation. And I'm very much glad that we're able to get together and talk as filmmakers among ourselves. We can't rely on governments or nobody to really solve our problems. This discussions and conversations is what is going to drive change and inspire hope among ourselves. So let's dive straight in. So recently, you and I have witnessed a strong wave. Aside COVID, we are all of a sudden seeing this strong wave of a kind of like uprising, where it's like all of a sudden Blacks or Africans have come to a certain sort of realization, and we are all kind of like championing the Black Lives Matter, Blacks can do spirit, all of those stuff. And so we are witnessing all of this uprising. And my question always is, how does the African cinema stand to benefit in such moment, in such era, in an uprising as this? What is the chances, and what is there for the African cinema as a whole? And I just want to quickly take your views on that. So let's start with Sayibu, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right about that. This new sort of wave, or what it is that we're seeing. I think that what precedes that is the work that, especially Nollywood had been doing for African film for a while now, right? They've kind of kept African film in sort of the conversation throughout the limbos and peaks and valleys of African film history, I should say, at least in the last decade, right? While all of us are kind of going up and down. But then I feel like there's some specific projects that have sort of made people sit up, and see that, okay, there's other things that we can do and try to rewrite what exactly the narrative is about us out there. And ultimately, you can't talk about this without talking about what Black Panther did when it came out in 2018, right? That sort of sparked a certain thing in everybody. Sure, I think everybody was excited about it, but ultimately, I think the thing that made it sort of bigger was that it also made Africans sort of start thinking sort of like, yo, this is something is great and it's talking about us, but imagine if we did it. Imagine if we actually did it ourselves. And it's not like it can't be done, but it's like maybe we're not applying ourselves in even to try and tell certain types of stories at all, because maybe at the time you didn't have a place that you thought it would go. But then, in comes Netflix into this whole thing. And it's now like, different types of filmmakers have seen that if you do it well and you're able to get it in front of the right people or in front of the right corporation or whatever, they could take you up. So I'm thinking that for this whole thing, I think it's a fact of an awakening of, creativity, but also just a different reality that exists now that did not exist 5 years ago. You get 5 years ago, I would not even have thought of doing something like Adam the first, because sure, I would know that it might be able to go somewhere, but where? There's no targets. You can't even predict what you might be able to do with a movie like that coming from this side of the world, you know? But right now, that's a whole different ball game. We're in the streaming wars right now. There's HBO Max, there's Disney Plus, there's Netflix, there's Peacock coming out. There's Quibi. Like, there's so many now. It's basically content is king again. Like, there's actually places looking for content. And it's all about you bringing your content up to that standard. And I believe that's really what the challenge has been, because we've all known that we can sort of, we could do it, but we needed to know that there was a place that it would go, because there have been big projects that have happened in all our countries that we all probably know, maybe growing up and stuff, that never went anywhere, even though we all feel like they were big projects. Like in my country, you know, there was this project called Heritage Africa, which went across the world, by the way. It did really great, but right now, it's still not in the conversation for even them trying to curate like a classic from Ghana. You get it? So back then, if that movie happened and it didn't get the attention we think it deserves, you know, how do we get inspired? But now it's a whole different world, man. So I think that is also part of it. We're just in a different part of history now that allows those things to happen.
Okay, let me ask you, Emma. Thank you very much, Sayibu. Emma, let me ask you this. So with the spotlight now on Africa, it's more like the spotlight now on Africa. Sayibu said it right. Content is now gold. Africa now is the gold. Africa now looks like the new gold mine where everybody has placed their spotlight on and is looking at mining some gold from the continent. Is this a threat, or it's a good news and a gospel we should be celebrating? And in what regards does this affect our narrative, our African cinema narrative?
Okay.
Emma, you have to unmute. Yeah, great.
Yes. Sorry, I would write the questions down because I tend to ramble, so I can get my thoughts in perspective.
Okay.
Narrative. So, I absolutely believe I'm an optimistic person, right? I'm the one who always sees the glass as half full, right? So I strongly believe that this is like an amazing opportunity. This is like exciting times for African filmmakers right now. It's a beautiful time, but for me, it's also a dangerous time, right? And the reason, and I'll start with why I think it's a beautiful time. I kind of believe that the whole world is going into a new phase, right? And especially with content and television, where the same way that the VHS faded away, something is going on right now in the film space, that a new strong force is coming up, and that's VOD platforms, right? And I think that the corona pandemic has, fast forwarded this move where if you look closely for the past 3 months, no cinema in the world has sort of earned anything. Everybody has been shut down. And I think that going forward, so in order to be able to break into this online space, you start seeing Universals and all the other guys coming into this market and creating VOD platforms, like Sayibu said. A lot of these things will start springing up. And you find out that with exactly what Disney did, pulling out their films from different platforms to put on Disney Plus, other VOD platforms, these new VOD platforms will start pulling their films from everywhere. And if you look in that space, there's hardly any African film that has played in that international space. There's hardly any. So this is exciting times for filmmakers right now, where there's a search. And one thing I always try to make filmmakers realize is that, look, the Netflix guys, they are businesses. They run it. They run corporations to, recoup investment, to get money back for their investors. So they're not here to build the African film space. They can help in whatever way they want, but their target is to earn money. So the reason why I say that it is positive for African filmmakers is because, look, we're in exciting times. If you look at that space, the last films that have broken so strong in the global space, where you have the Sambenes and you had those kind of films, right, coming in very strong. And there's been a huge gap from that point for filmmakers to begin to fill right now. So they coming into Netflix and all this VOD and, the whole world looking into Africa is exciting. But are we prepared for this wave? Do you see what I mean? Because right now, for the fact that they are looking into the continent, we need to realize that it is not the same level of game playing we used to play. We are now playing on the international space, and you cannot deceive the international audience. So we have this opportunity on the table, right? Can we take this opportunity and run with it? Or are we going to, are we going to up our games to create content and ride with this, attention that is beginning to come into Africa? Or are we going to take this opportunity and and one of my fear is that a lot of us do not see the opportunities and want to play in this space the same way we've been playing over the years with, oh yeah, let's go, let's shoot this, let's do this, let's do that, yeah, let's make this film, right? While this is a space where they're looking for voices and looking for unique story. So one thing I'm very afraid of is that even if this is a great time for African films, that we would miss this opportunity, and that you start seeing, because these VOD platforms will come in and say, oh, we can't recognize voices that can break into that international space. Then you start seeing them bringing in people from the diasporas with the skills to fill up these positions and take it away from Africans. I'm not saying that they're African, but indigenous Africans. So that's why I keep saying that it's an amazing time, but also a time that we all have to be very careful and be prepared for this excitement that is coming into the continent.
Amazing. Quite some enlightening points there. So it looks great, but it could be, it is dire, because it has the potential to take away jobs from us if we are not prepared and we don't stand up and we do not up our game. Because like you rightly said, we are playing in the international space now, and we cannot hide our mistakes like we used to do. We will be caught easily. We can't run away with those mistakes, right?
It's not taking away jobs. It's the opportunity for Africa for the film industry to get a place in the international space, where a filmmaker can live off his earnings and feed his family and feed his generation. That's breaking into that point, or staying in our status quo where, okay, let's just we broke box office in Nigeria, let's try to break into Ghana. If we're not careful, it can stop us from breaking into that international space that Africa deserves to be on. Yeah.
Great. Desiree, what is your take on this? The country Namibia, you are very fast growing. You are very, very fast growing film country. And what is it like for you guys, and even Africa as a whole? Does this pose a threat for you guys, or do you share the same opinion and think it's something great?
I mean, I agree. I definitely agree with Emma them, but also for us, because we are still sort of a smaller industry that is just learning how to walk right now, and our productivity per se in terms of putting out content is not on that fast pace, let's say, of what South Africa would be, or what Nigeria would be at this point in time. So, but then also at the same time, because I mean, one of the major thing was for African filmmakers was having your content have a home somewhere to be viewed, or to have that to be exhibited in that for the international audience, or just for African audience to also to be able to have access to, is something that we were struggling with. So with this new wave, it brings with Netflix and I guess Amazon Prime and all the other platforms that are coming up, it creates that hope that like I can do a film and I want I'm not, it's not gonna just end up on my CD collection, my DVD collections in my closet. It's like one day I did a film like this. There's actually now an opportunity and a possibility for my film to be somewhere somehow, and especially I think with the film festivals in that regard, because I mean, even with my film with the White Line, for it to even just get on people's radar was really because, you know, we decided that we're going to shoot a film, but we're going to have it submitted before we even release it in Namibia. We're going to just submit it to international film festivals, and wherever we get in, you know, it gives us, you know, just an opportunity to be heard and to be seen as an industry. And funny enough, to some of the festivals that I went to, a lot of people didn't even know that Namibia had an industry or we were making films. So it was always, oh, you're from Namibia? Oh, I didn't know you guys made films. So I think because we have been really just most of the time in the shadow, even more of South Africa, it made it that much more difficult to be heard and seen. But I mean, but then also at the same time, I mean, it's opportunity now, because the focus is on Africa. And yes, right now it's on Nigeria and it's on South Africa in terms of the representation of the African narrative or the African content. But I mean, it's not to be discouraged, but to find your way and find your voice and find your content to get to those spaces. You know, and because the sales agents and the distributors within Africa, you know, because of the demand now, you know, they're going into all the other countries within Africa to look for content. You know, if they can't find it within this space that they are in, they're like, okay, cool. What else is happening in Africa? Oh, I saw this. Let's get that in there so that I can represent it and take it to where the demand is. And so it creates an opportunity to really, to be honest, it does create an opportunity. But I also do agree with Emma that there is also that danger.
Great. So we are all speaking and saying this the same thing, and it's good. We are all realizing that even though it is a great opportunity to have a spotlight on us, it is also it puts a very serious demand on filmmakers in Africa to really up their game and position ourselves well to be able to take advantage of this whole spotlight and this whole uprising. So my next question, when we speak about the African cinema narrative, what really is that African cinema narrative, and how is this narrative affected the African film director? Now let's focus on directors. Okay, today I'm not focusing on in any other sector. I'm talking more about directors. What really is this African cinema narrative, and how has the narrative over the years affected the contribution or the skills of the African film director? Who wants to kick this one off for me? Sayibu, you want to hit it?
Yeah, sure. I always wait for one of the ladies to take it first, you know, but I'll be the scapegoat. Yeah, you know, I think that the general narrative is currently being discovered, because we are just now having the opportunity to find that, because in the past we've been preoccupied with chasing what the West was doing and trying to emulate. So I think that we've just now started trying to be ourselves. However, with directors, I'm seeing that identity has already evolved for a lot of different directors. You get it? like especially with my contemporaries, that at least like I've seen that they already have their own like sensibilities and and what I expect from them, like at least the ones I'm familiar with, right? Like with
Yeah.
I mean, a few examples could be like look like Abu Idris. I'm very intrigued whenever he's doing anything with anything that's sort of like a thriller, because I've seen his sensibilities. I feel like Ofiche has this sort of sentimental vibe also to him. They all have, like, I've seen that has happened, but as I think an overall cultural, African cinema narrative, we're still sort of discovering that. And I think all this is going to come together with like Emma and Desiree, like I feel like these are unique voices that are sort of adding to one part that is going to ultimately reveal that answer to us in a few years, of like what we truly are as an African film community, I should say.
Perfect. Great. Emma, let me ask this. So for me, okay, over the years, mostly the narrative I have seen has been poverty, sickness, famine, aid, foreign aid, uh, you know, primitive people, with primitive culture and crazy, all of those stuff we've been seeing. And most of the times, most people ask me this question. So if you do not do such primitive stories and such, dying stories, you will never get to cross over. Is that the narrative? And over the years, how has that shaped the character, the aesthetics, the directing skills of directors in the film industry?
Could I, someone? Yeah.
Hi. Okay. I'm sorry. I keep writing the question because if I don't write it, trust me, I'll start talking about my next birthday party. I'll wander off. So so forgive me. First things first, I think that for years now, as African filmmakers, we have been very isolated from each other. Um, if this were 5, 6, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have the opportunity to even meet and speak with Sayibu and Desiree, even Kwasi had this conversation, with Ghana, like there's this Ghana Nigeria jollof rice war, right? That would have put the boundary immediately, right? And, even just talking to African filmmakers would have not been possible. So the truth of the matter is we are a nation. We can't run away from our poverty, our sickness, premature voodoo, dying stories. And it's part of our lives. Like, I kind of feel like one of my problems with and one of the reasons why I decided to make films was because I wanted to tell the reality of what was happening in Nigeria. It is what you see, and it is what it is. But one of the things that we can, and over the years, I think that we have been using what we had as an industry to create. That's where the growth of Nollywood and a lot of filmmakers, we especially from West Africa, we didn't have funding and grants from Paris. We had to pick up a VHS and start shooting and creating. And I respect that. Even though it wasn't up to the Western standard. And I don't think that we should take that downwards and say, oh yeah, we're poverty stricken. It's still Africans trying to tell their stories. What I say is, so the question is, over the years, how has this shaped the director's perspective? It is our reality, and we are telling our reality in whatever way we can and with whatever we have. My thing is, we cannot run from this issue. And if we have to celebrate our strength as African filmmakers, we still have to connect with what is happening right now in our environment, but talk about the strong, dynamic African characters. So I kind of feel like we're morphing narrative-wise away from, we're kind of finding our ground in the industry where, and a lot of young people, and look, the way that I believe so is because when you look at the elders in the past, they told stories that traveled about what was happening in their village, what's happening with the colonial times, right? And from the VHS time till now, we have been telling stories about what we see, voodoo, witchcraft, death, maybe not in the Hollywood standard, and maybe because the African continent was closed. I kind of feel like what is going to happen is that these themes are still going to be very strong, but a lot of young filmmakers are going to come with the talent, the skills, the voices to tell the stories in a very strong and proper way. I can't make a story about a billionaire. How many billionaires do we have in Africa? I can only make a story about the guy who pushes his wheelbarrow and makes less than $100 to feed his family. In my eyes, he's the hero. So I think that the narrative is going to be to evolve. And I can't diminish or look down on the past, what these guys have made, because with what the little we had, we made amazing stuff. You know, with the little we had, we're able to tell our own story and put ourselves on the global space. So I think that the narrative in the future is that we're not going to shy away. We're going to embrace what is going on around us, but we're also going to not push this weakness, the issues on the forefront, but celebrate strong, dynamic African characters. And I think that's the way that our stories are going to evolve in the future. Not saying, oh yeah, you know, all these voodoo films, yes, you know, all our gate man films, it's our reality. But you start seeing young filmmakers begin to tell it from a place of strength, from a very personal perspective of what they're going through within the continent.
Yeah.
Great. Desiree, I know Sayibu has something to say. I will allow him to say it. But Desiree, or Sayibu, do you want to hit up before I go to
Yeah,
Desiree?
I wanted to say something real quick with, before we continue. Sorry about that. Basically, I do agree with what Emma was saying. However, I think that, at least in my view, we are getting into a place where I think that those things can now be presented in a way that will make sense, or in a way that makes sense to us also. You get it? Because a lot of the times, like what she was saying, when we look at these voodoo films, as we call them, it's like these are things that actually are things in our society. Like in every community, you've probably heard about some type of voodoo story before. If you've grown up in Africa, you've at least heard something that you believe to be true that is of that ilk, right? However, I think that now we get to be able to make it make sense. And in the example I was going to make was like, I don't think anybody in Ghana here, if you told them, like, if you tell a random person in Ghana, like, hey, you know, I want to tell you about this guy who killed 30 people in America. They'd be like, why do I need to know about that? Like, why? You know, but then if you watch a movie about Ted Bundy, suddenly you might be watching it and you're getting it. It's making more sense. But if you didn't have that type of skill to present it to people, it will look like what we have with our voodoo stuff. Because like she said, it's reality, it's real. Like this, you know, that is a big part of African community is all this type of witchcraft and stuff that's going on, people pulling people down and all these type of things. But yes, rightfully, I think that, yeah, we're in that space where we can truly present it in a fashion that can be palatable to a global audience. Because right now, every filmmaker has been coasting on the fact that we understand those things to be their audience. You get it? If anyone who is not from that community watches it, it's going to look like dribble, you know? But now we get to bring it to people in that way. That's just, I wanted to add to that before we jump.
In a more fashioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. That in a more fashioned way, in a more acceptable global way, we present those ideas and those narratives.
Yeah.
Desiree, I watched The White Line. I watched the trailer, and very, very, very unique. I'm a strong lover of how do you call it? Epic films and films that go back in time to, you know, talk about all of this great amazing their history, biopics, you know, that's me. I love this stuff. And when I saw your piece, it was amazing. And I was like, I was really like, Namibia doing this stuff, like it was a shocker, but then it was a relief, and it gave me so much hope that, you know, there are amazing stuff happening, and we had a future. Over the years, what has been the narrative, you know, in Namibia or for you in Africa, and how has it shaped even yourself as a filmmaker? How has it shaped your perspective, your aesthetics, the way you approach a project? What has been the effect of the African cinema narrative on you?
For me personally, I mean, within Namibia, I think mostly like growing up, the films that were being made within Namibia was mostly the NGO type of films, you know. And yes, there were filmmakers here and there that were, you know, that were telling their stories just based on their own experiences. That was mostly for or television series, as in a way, television shows for the local broadcast, but mostly in terms of film was mostly just NGO type of films. So you would see that and you would look at that. And also at the same time, we were getting quite a bit of films from Nollywood, you know. So we were watching a lot of the Nigerian films, and you know, and that was entertaining. I won't lie. I mean, there was certain thing, like you say, like Shabu said, like it was relatable in that way, you know, because, you know, again, down the street, you know, you heard this stuff and you saw this stuff, you know, but then it was also entertaining because it was just something, and it was also people that we could recognize, people that looked like an aunt that I knew, or somebody that I saw down somewhere in a shop. So the faces were also sort of familiar because I guess it was an African face. And then also our influences were mostly obviously from Hollywood. So we would get a lot of those TV shows and a lot of that. So in a way, I think the NGOs and those type of films was also what sort of felt like, okay, cool. Like it was there, and it was, and we were grateful for it, but also it taught us what we did not want to do in terms of our own stories in that regard. So, and also for me, I think, and I've been asking this question lately, and funny enough that we are speaking about it in terms of what is that African narrative, you know, and it's true, it has evolved. It has evolved from, you know, what we used to watch from, you know, the NGO type of films, where there was either pushing the social issues forward, and whether it was, you know, stuff from South Africa or stuff from Nigeria, and it has evolved from there. But I do agree that we haven't gotten there yet. You know, so most of my influences in terms of storytelling was mostly Hollywood, in that, and you know, Hollywood films and Hollywood directors. So in terms of thinking, you know, that was where my mind would sort of go. Like, you know, I would like, and it was mostly just, you know, the performances and the production value of what that was, not necessarily the stories. You know, because ultimately it was all, I mean, sometimes also the only reason we could relate to Hollywood films, it was also because, you know, it was stuff that, but most of the time it was human experience, whether it was love or death or grief or whatever, or loss. You know, it's stuff that we all experience at one point and another, and most of the time it was how we could also just relate to Hollywood in that regard. But it was also like, okay, cool, how do I take the production value of that? How do I take the performance quality of those films, and how do I make it in a way but that speaks true to my environment and where I am coming from, and the stories that I want to tell, and to break away from what was sort of done in the past.
Great. So finally, the African film director is finding his or her voice truly now, equipped with more skills, equipped with more opportunities to be able to tell the stories we used to tell in a more fashionable way, with our own touch, with our own style. And also,
sorry, yeah, and also because, and like Emma said, our everyday experiences now, you know, where the people that, because yes, back in the day it was either, you know, the sort of like what should come from was the village and all of those things and the poverty. But right now, because we are also in a modern society and in a progressive society, so if I know people, you know, if I know business women, you know, that are out there running, you know, like corporate companies, those are, I mean, that's what I'm exposed to. So if there's a story in there for me to tell, then I'm going to tell that story within a modern, let's say, Windhoek city setting, you know, and it might maybe not look like an African film, but it is my reality, and it is and it is what I probably see, or what I'm, you know, what I'm inspired by from what I am seeing around me.
Great. We have a lot of viewers watching us right now on Facebook Live. We want to say thank you and welcome to everyone who's joined us. And amazing, there are some comments which are already flowing. So Skofari is already watching us. Nashoko joined us. Jukans is watching from Canada. Aite, good, is watching from Tishi in Accra. Uncle Blaise, I see you. Wales or Samoa is here. Ben Dakwa is asking this question. He says, so what do African filmmakers need to do to hit the targets? So I presume it was he's speaking about when we were talking about the African cinema and whether it was good to have the spotlight on us and stuff. He was asking, what do African filmmakers need to do to hit the target? I think I'm going to go through the comments, and I'm going to merge that with my next question, and then you guys can just take a hit on that one as well. Bex is watching us. Thank you very much for joining us. Bex is on Sayibu's film, Adam the First. He's the lead character. All right.
Yeah. He is.
An amazing.
Yeah, Nashoko actually is
amazing,
as well. Nashoko
actor.
is the lead as
Yes,
well.
as well.
Yeah, she's in it as well.
Great. Fantastic. There's me, Ayi Solomon, is just watching from University of Ghana. Jamila is here on entry, Nashoko, Bracken watching from Takoradi. Jamila is making a comment. She's saying, I think the question you are asking pertains to the African narrative, which is purely poverty and sickness. That is a part of it, but there are other positive stories of Africa too. But whoever is in charge at the top wants to push his narrative, and that's why we have to put more people at the top and fight to get there and get a seat at the table too. Okay, great comments. Thank you very much. We are nurturing ourselves to be at the seat, and so we can tell our own stories and have our own voice. Benafat, Andy Kelly, Emmanuel, thank you for joining us, Kelly. Esther Lynn is saying, I hope I'm mentioning the name right. Esther Lynn, White Line is a film. No doubt it was a great film. Marcella is saying, go Desiree. She did well on the film because she presented the gray areas within the upper thigh era. Emmanuel Richmond has on a lot of comments going down. I can't read everything right now. We have to just jump back into our conversation. So, guys, with what, what's his name? Come to me. Okay, great. With what Ben Dakwa was asking, Ben Dakwa has a series now on Amazon, right? Trending Crimes. Ben Dakwa has a film on Amazon, Trending Crimes. Here, it's an amazing series. If you have the chance, just take a watch. It's very beautiful. So to our next question, we are saying that now that all the spotlight is on us now, and we see it as an opportunity, or even as we see it as a threat. Now, what elements or what will be the sole contribution of the African film director or African film directors in help shape or help us reaching this this point or this narrative we are all talking about? What will be the contribution of the African film director? Let's focus on just directors. What will be that element? What will be that sole contribution that you guys can add up to the production value to really get us up there and really give us that voice that we are all looking for? Emma, you want to go on this one? I won't get on Sayibu. Or okay, Desiree, do this one for us, and then Emma will pick it up.
Okay, I think the one thing that we, first of all, we make films for an audience. and so and yes, for platforms, but then for platforms, it's still for an audience to watch. And the one thing that even within the African audience, them watching, from the beginning, African films, was, and even the reason why they watch, let's say, Hollywood films is, for to be entertained, however that is, to be informed, yes, but to be entertained. So in terms of, so what we are looking at is like, you can also not fool an audience in terms of quality, production value, story, performance, in that regard. And that is what they go for, and that is what they want to watch, and that is what they want to see. So for me as a filmmaker, as a director, first of all, what I'm still finding my voice, and I'm still experimenting with different types of genres and then not even experimenting, it's just, trying to tell different stories from and in that regard. And what I found myself do is the stories that I want to tell are not regional. They're not from just one place. I'm not telling a story that is just solely a Namibian story. That is just solely a Namibian story. I'm telling a story that is an African story, that is a human story that can resonate with anybody, but from Africa and from Namibia. So whatever story that I'm coming up with, if I co-produce with somebody from South Africa, even if we move the production to South Africa, it's still my voice, and it is still a story that would be able to resonate with people from South Africa or across the African continent. Because I feel like the one thing that has happened was also the borders sort of also separated us. Okay, you're from Namibia, you're from Nigeria, you're from South Africa, you're from Ghana, and and you tell your story from that point, or a Ghanaian story. But what is a Ghanaian story? What is a Nigerian story? And then us having to come to the larger context of what is an African story. So I feel like it's just whatever I'm so fascinated by the human psychology. So my stories is human, is the human mind, and just like the interaction between people and the society and the lives that they live, and also just pushing forward female leads within my films. I think that is one thing. So however I shape that story, however I tell that story, whether it is a psychological drama, whether it is a thriller, it's still how I tell it from within me, and not minding what the society around, or what the trend is around me.
And I'm going to jump in on that.
Emma.
Yes, Desiree, I strongly agree with Desiree. Like, your voice is absolutely key. And it's like she said, whether you're in South Africa, whether you're in Ghana, your voice still comes out very strong in these stories, right? So, like I keep saying to filmmakers out there, we're in very fascinating times. And I'm going to use myself as an example and be very practical to everybody out there listening to me. So I'm in Nollywood, right? One of the biggest film industries in Africa, right? But you see it on the outside as being a massive industry. But we on the inside, there's still a big struggle within for you to stand out. And if you look at everybody on this panel, picked up on this panel, or filmmakers that are beginning to grow strong, a lot of us made our films out of frustration. Like, the reason when I made my film, I was tired. I said to myself, I don't want to see any female with makeup. I don't want Brazilian hair. I don't want an American accent. I want to make something, that I felt very strongly about, not what Nollywood was pushing me to make. Do you see? So, and I'll use my story and our stories as being very practical. I've had one of the most amazing careers in Nigeria. I've been given amazing opportunities to create films for Ebony Live TV, for some of the biggest brands in Nigeria. But there was something on the inside of me when I would go out to work as a documentary filmmaker, and I would go to the slums, and I would see the tenacity of these people. And I said to myself, I really want to make stories about what I see is happening on the streets, reality, not plastic. I want to make a story about Tunde who carries pongpong on his head, you know, and I see their mannerism and I want to put that in a film. So what I did was like, look, I know that nobody will give me money to make this film. I would use what I have. So being very practical, over the years, I had built skills as a cinematographer, I built skills as a director, and I've built skills as an editor. This is 13 years of filmmaking, of, you know, you didn't suffer as I suffered in Nigeria. I trekked just to go and learn how to make film, just to learn how to make films. Like I shadowed guys, like I was even tiny. So I put my head there and I learned the craft. And all that prepared me for now, where if you're a filmmaker now and you want to create, you don't have a budget, you need to have the skills to be able to protect the quality of your work. Because, you know, you don't have a big budget. You can't hire the top, like there are top guys in Nigeria who charge in dollars. I can't hire these guys. And with the small money I have, if I hire one guy like this, he will spoil my work. So I had to learn the skills to be able to use the little I had to create. And when I made this film, I was like, look, I don't know what's going to happen. And if you check within the industry, a lot of us who broke internationally or who are beginning to break internationally have that idea. Look, I don't have the money, but I have this story that I want to create, that I'm passionate about. This is what I see. This is the reality I see. And I went out and I made Kasala. When I made Kasala, trust me, it wasn't anything that the industry had seen. Guys were shutting all doors on me. I went to the top guns and they said, look, Emma, look, this film, we don't understand what you made. You know, it's too deep for the Nigerian audience. The Nigerian audience want to laugh, so they want comedy. And I'm like, fine, God bless you, man. Took my film out and I was being rejected within my own space back to back. But somebody said to me, Emma, this is your film. Why don't you put it in a film festival? And I took my tiny film, and I submitted it into one film festival. And that's where the magic started happening. It started traveling. It started, went to 30 international film festivals. I was like, all through last year, I was flying, all expense paid and I'm not saying this to boast, guys. I'm just trying to say that, look, even though they are top guns, there's a way. And what the way that you as an African filmmaker can do to get in there is, first of all, build your skills to be able to work with the little you have. And when you do that, create with watch the masters and see what they've made, and take your own voice and put it into what's the skills you've learned, and put your work out there. And one of the things that it made me realize is that, look, there's a big world out there. And my film, I was literally in the United Nations talking about African films, and I'm here because of Kasala. Look, I don't know Kwesi from anywhere. I don't know Sayibu from anywhere. Or I know Desiree. We met in a festival. So these are the opportunities that can happen to filmmakers when you stand out and create stories that you're passionate about. And my film, which was made with less than $10,000, is on Netflix with the same films that were made with $1 million or whatever. Do you see? So what I'm trying to say to you guys is, look, I strongly believe that the Netflix know that in Africa, we don't have $1 million to create a beast of no nation. But what they are looking for are unique voices that can break into the international space. Because Netflix is looking for money like everybody's looking for money. Look, they don't care whether you're Africa, you're Zimbabwean, or you're from Tokyo or whatever, as long as you can bring in that box with the international audience and you have that eye and you have stories. So the key thing is for African filmmakers, how you can do to break into that space is to learn the craft and learn it well. Find a story, and it might mean breaking away from everything you know. look at the films that have broken into Netflix and create a story that you're passionate about, a story that stands out. It might not be, Kasala was not the best, but it had its own voice and it was nothing like you see in Nollywood. Make that film and put it out there with the research you've done. Make it out and put it out there. And your best way to get into that space is film festivals, the film festival route. And within that film festival route, there are usually scouts who are looking for voices in that space. So you see, like when people say, oh, there's some guys that are shaping the narrative, we have to break in, we have to get a seat at it. Look, you guys do you, I do me. I'm not in that Emma versus the world. What I do is I sit down and I look, what are the films that have broken into the Oscars? What are the films that have broken into that space? And I take those films and I study them. And I think this is what African filmmakers don't do. You're coming into this international space and you want to bring your local idea. I look at these films and I study them. And I ask myself questions. What is this filmmaker feeling at this point and what is he trying to say? And what am I feeling at this point? And how can I use the talent, the skills here to put my voice, and present it in this way that has broken into the Oscars? It's not perfect, but I can see a trend coming in with my voice. So that's what you can do. And if you look at the Martin Scorsese's and they had a movement. If you look at their first films were never perfect, but they had a movement that even Hollywood had gotten to a point where we're looking for new voices, and they went out and they were picking these young guys, the Martin Scorsese's, the Coppolas. They were picking them up and giving them a platform. And I think that we're in that space within in African filmmaking now. So these guys are looking into the industry and scouting. Who are these voices? Who are these people that can tell stories with a unique voice? And they're beginning to pick out voices from Africa. You can't make a detective film as good as an American will make it. Make your own story, make your own voices with the same skills as an Oscar-winning person will make it. Try to be as true as possible and put your work out there. And I say, it might sound like, oh, just put your work out there. We are all testimonies to that. We just created and put our work out there and the magic happened. So that's what you can do. But you can't deceive the international audience with the crap that you keep creating. If it does not stand close or in some ways to the films that they are used to, then forget it. And that's just my idea.
Yeah, they would no way. They will figure you out.
Yeah.
Sayibu.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Emma.
I'm very passionate. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not shouting at you guys. I'm just very passionate about the industry. It's just the way I talk. I'm very friendly and chilled out.
No worries.
Great. Let's
like I said, I'm always learning. So I'm listening to all this and I'm taking a lot in. But my thought I would like to share from my perspective is that, I think the biggest contribution you can give your audience as a director from where we are from is the truth of your craft, And I believe that let me back up by saying this, I've never believed in the standardized way of making things, right? But again, that is just the type of filmmaker that I am. You get it? So it's the truth of what type of filmmaker that you are. You have to figure that out. I also don't generally, I've been to festivals, but they're not like they're like my last thing I think about, after I'm done with the film. When I'm done with it, then I'm like, okay, which festival would this suit itself to go? Because I don't start thinking about that when I'm just trying to tell the story. That's me. But again, like I said, you got to go back and figure out which kind of filmmaker are you? What are your goals as a filmmaker? That is where you would find the best contribution that you can now bring into the game. Because there's so many, when I was in LA, listen, I've met directors who are all about the gig. They just want to work and make money. They don't care whether it's they just want to get the next gig to pay bills. There's that kind of director. Now, then there's a director who you know, so long as everything would be set up for them, they don't care about certain details. They just want to be able to work also. They are not, but they do care about story and all those things, but it's not all about the money, but they have more compromises. You get it? And then there are those who are all about cinema, quote unquote, like, I want to go to this festival. I need the prestige. I'm trying to be prestigious. You get it? And the group that I fall in, the rest of us who are more like, we love this and we would love to make money out of it. But what is more important to us is for us to be able to put it down exactly as we want it to be put down. You get it? I want to contribute my story exactly as I want it to be contributed. And yes, these are the ones they call the, you know, normally that's the starving artist trope, because a lot of the times we're broke. but but another very, very common trope about these types of people is that, like, a lot of the times once they hit their stride, suddenly they're like, they always create a world of their own. Like Tarantino, he came in breaking all the rules.
Yeah.
But today, when you hear a Tarantino movie, it's a genre of its own. You can't compare Tarantino to anybody else because he's not doing, he's not doing anything that you can, other people rather, steal from him. Like you'll see a movie and you'll be like, yo, that kind of looks like something like a Tarantino type of thing. Another person like that is Chris Nolan. Another person who's out of the system. They do a small movie called Following, and then like that. And they always do things that are so unique and just coming straight from them. And I believe that is, like, to me, as a filmmaker, of whatever kind of filmmaker you are, that truth is your greatest contribution that you can bring. Because if you have it, you're not gonna, you don't rest until you get it right. Like Desiree did not get to the final product that she had by just sitting there and be like, yo, you know what? I want to make a movie and that's it. I'm going to make it. No, like she said, she studied, she took time. You know why? Because that is the truth of her craft. That is the truth of it. Like she's putting her soul into it. Same with Emma. Look at 13-year grind. You get it. To get to all these accolades because you're putting your truth into it. It's not, because if you're going to sit down and talk about the money, they probably would have taken different routes, right? If it's just about just get the money or whatever, but they wanted to reveal the truth of their craft, like to truly be directors. And another thing I think that is always lost, especially because I haven't been all over, I've only been in this industry in Ghana, that I've seen is a lot of directors don't direct. Like that is the reason why there's always movies all look alike. And all the movies all kind of seem like, the storylines are being written by the same people. It's being shot by the same people and everything. And because, some of it is being shot by the same people, but the other thing is that a lot of these directors, their voices are lost in what's happening. So you can never, like if I put on a movie, I can't look at a screen and just be like, oh, I know who directed this. That's not happening. There's the only two Ghanaian movies I see and react that way, actually 3 now. That would be Heritage Africa, Burial of Kojo, and Azali. Oh, and Children of the Mountain. You get it? Because those ones, they stand on their own when I see them. Like when I see it, I know the director first before I even know about the movie. I'm like, oh, okay, that's Priscilla Nane over there. Oh, this Bliss. You get it? Oh, this is, Kwabena Jansa. You get what I'm saying? Or when I watch Beautiful Mind, I know that's Kofiche. I can feel it. And when I see a trailer that is a Kofiche trailer, you kind of know what is going to be coming to. And I think that's what's missing. To be honest, that's actually even more paramount than the people who are putting in their passion into it, because they start off with the passion, but then you get all these people telling you a whole bunch of different things. So you kind of forget about it and start trying to make money. And that becomes the end game. Get it? And I think we have to do away with that, to be honest.
Can I add something? Can I add something to that? Sayibu, I think you made an amazing point, and it all even listening to you, something just came to my thought, right? And just writing on the amazing things you've said. If you want to come into the industry, you kind of need to know what you want to do here, right?
Yeah.
You have to look. I believe and we all believe that. Look, everybody has a right to make. And we're talking about this film. It's not like we're insulting them or anything. I believe that everybody has a right to create what they want to create. If you want to create, if you just want to make a living, and working in the African film space can be really hard, right? If you want to make a living, do it, do you? But if you want to, you want to say, okay, you kind of have to know where you want to. If you want to create a voice, just know that you would never be comfortable with anything that you watch amazing films that will inspire you that you want to make. And you have to understand that in this space, it's very lonely. 90% of the time, when you create this film, doesn't mean that you break into a festival immediately and then you get all this international accolades. It's a process of finding your voice that takes time. And me, I'm in a point in my life like, hey, I'm happy. Oh, look, I can do other stuff. And filmmaking will be that thing that I'm building my voice until I'm very strong. And that's where I am at the moment. But you need to be very clear of what you want. You can't say, and look, I'm not saying even if you want to play in the commercial space, you need to take time out to build that voice and protect it and fight for it and create. So riding on the amazing thing Sayibu said, no, you're coming into the film space. Am I going to be a commercial director? What kind of filmmaker am I going to be? And just come to terms with, you're not going to break bank. You're not going to make the biggest wedding party at the moment. But chances are that you create something so unique that you create a followership. And it's a very lonely world. And you can, I know Desiree and I have spoken over the phone looking for funding, crying our eyes out, broken hearts. But this is where we are right now, and we can see something coming out of it. So you really need to know where you want to play in the space. Yeah.
Shall we want to throw in and then let me just move on and then see? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead. She's basically covered everything I was going to say.
Great. All right. So, amazing stuff you guys are saying, and trust me, I'm getting enlightened. My spirit is being built. My mind is being challenged, and it's amazing the level of knowledge and the level of tenacity, the spirit of the young film maker in Africa, and it's just amazing. But let me ask this question. Desiree made a critical point about boundaries and about barriers, and as a film advocate myself, that has been something that have been on my mind, and I have been reading about, and I have been talking about if there could be policies whatsoever. This is the time that Africa has gotten the spotlight on us. Do we feel and think that it is the right time to begin to encourage international co-productions among ourselves, among directors, among production companies? Especially, let's just focus on directors. Is this the time, and is the moment right to begin to encourage these things, especially co-productions, co-directing, so that at least we can begin to break the barriers and the boundaries and begin to see ourselves, like Desiree rightly stated, we are very limited in our own boundaries. Is this the time? And if this is the time, what can directors do to at least push and ensure that we encourage each other to begin to practice and engage in co-production and co-directing and stuff like that? Sayibu, you want to kick this one off?
Yeah, man. I've actually been very a big advocate of that, because I think that a lot of great material has come out whenever creatives team up, especially like two creative forces, like two directors coming together to do something, right? Because it's two different ideologies, two different ways of thought, two different, problem-solving skills, all these type of things. And, they say, two heads are better than one in most cases. So I believe that, that is a paramount thing that we should do. But I also think that we should be very realistic about what that entails. You get it? Because again, creativity comes with a lot of different things. To me, like someone like me, I can work with anybody, like in any capacity, you know, but not every director can do that, and that's okay. So I believe that, you know, it's up to us to figure out how we can collaborate. Because in the States, they find that very easily. Like Ava DuVernay is not gonna direct a movie with Jordan Peele, but she might produce it. You get it? That way, you still get that, because a big thing most directors want is creative freedom.
Yeah.
You get it? The freedom. Because if another person is coming and you guys are not on the same page, you're gonna keep clashing on several different things because creatively you might be different. But if the person is a producer, they give you their opinions, you take it and you're able to sort of merge it into something. But if you can find a happy medium, like two directors coming together to do something, I believe that is actually, that's something I'm looking into actually with a few people, but which hopefully that comes to pass. But I do think that it's a viable thing to look at in our space. But the bigger thing to look at, I think it's more of a, if we had like a sort of, if we unionize or sort of get together in a sort of network, right? All these directors and filmmakers sort of coming together in a certain sort of group or something, you know, where we exchange ideas and we sort of help each other out in like pushing things and stuff and vet each other. Because back in the day, you know, she mentioned Francis Ford Coppola and, you know, Spielberg, Lucas, they used to vet each other's movies. Like when Spielberg, when Lucas was done with the first cut of Star Wars, Coppola and Spielberg watched it and let him know that it wasn't good. So he had to go and recut it and all that. And then we have the classic that we have today because of that type of collaboration. And I think that actually is, if you can find other creatives, you know, other directors or writers who you sort of have that same sort of creative wave with, but also can always give you a very unbiased and critical take, but not mean-spirited. You know, there's a difference in someone just hating on your thing or actually giving you some critical points like, hey man, you should probably fix this. You know, it might help it get better or something. And I have that, thankfully, with some of my creative friends. Like, you know, I collaborate a lot with Apu and Kofiche. Like I'll send them clips or something, you know, we talk, you know, and I think it helps. It only helps because it helps you stay on your toes because you know they got your back and you've got their back. And it would be dope if I could send something to Desiree or Emma, like, hey, check out this scene. What do you guys think? You know, and maybe Emma will come back to me and let me know, hey, you know, as a woman, this is how I feel about this scene. And maybe if you did it this way, it might come off better. That is only gonna make us better. It's only gonna make what we do more authentic. So to me, that's yes, that is what we should focus. That's the next phase, is to connect with each other and help each other out in that way.
Great. Emma, what do we, as you know, when you take foreign films, okay, or series or stuff, you see one series, maybe 13 episodes, 10 episodes. You have like 3-4 different directors working on this same episodes, on this series or sequel or whatever it is, and with different voices, you know, making the story great. Is that where we should look at, and how, you know, the directors fraternity, how can you guys encourage that so that we have a lot of what Sayibu is talking about, you know, that creative community?
I think things are changing, and I think the internet is changing that. If you remember, and I'm sure a lot of you, my colleagues, will know this, there used to be like a big divide with Francophone Africa cinema and Nigerian cinemas, West African cinema. In fact, there was a time where I would go to places, oh, you're Nollywood, and that term Nollywood will come with like a lot of connotation. Voodoo, Gateman. Tell me about how you guys do it. You know, how do you produce that crap you produce? You know, you get that undertone. And it used to be like that. But if I kind of feel like things are changing. And it's a new generation is coming up and we're eager to meet each other, right? Like, look at how we're all vibing here. I've never met Sayibu. I met Desiree at Durban Talent, and she's been like my sister. I go to Desiree and I cry my heart out. And especially for a woman, I never in my life imagined that I would have this close connection with a Namibian. I never for once, in fact, I never thought I would meet a Namibian in my life, right? And
Yeah.
you know, yeah, and look at what this things like what you're doing, Kwasi, and what festivals are doing right now, bringing African filmmakers together and bringing that bond. And I really believe that, you know, a lot of these collaborations will begin to happen because a lot of us, if you look closely at this new generation, we're not hungry about fame. We're really crazy about our stories. We're not, if you look closely, it's not about the money. You know, yes, we have bills to pay, but it's not really about that. It's really about, all right, I really love what you're doing. And there's some sort of this real honesty. Like, I really want to talk to you. I really want to get your perspective on things. And there's this synergy that is happening with East Africans, with Nigerians, with Ghanaians, with everybody. And I kind of believe that the internet is gradually building that ecosystem, and we'll begin to see these collaborations coming up. Like, and I don't think it's something that we have to now, all of us now carry placards and say, hey, okay, Association of African Filmmakers, you know, Association of Directors in Africa, Association ADDA, you know, I don't, it's not that. I think that this thing will start organically happening. And, you know, like Desiree and I have been talking, she's working on the next one. I'm like, girl, I'm coming to Namibia. You know, you must bring me. Or I'm thinking, Des, you can come. My space is open. You can stay in my apartment. These collaborations have started happening. And I think that this will be the birthplace for so many amazing things that will happen in Nigeria. I don't think it's something that you forcefully have to push. I think that we're beginning to, there's this hunger, Kwasi. There's a hunger right now within African filmmakers, and a new generation are coming. There's a hunger, and we're finding ourselves, and this is building organically, right? And things will start springing up from that. So, and you said something about policy, and Desiree and I talked about this. I like how how are we going to answer this government policy matter? Look, I say this. Look, we have generations that are in power, that have been in power and haven't done things. And I think that filmmakers should, at this point, you can't fight that fight. Look, I kind of feel like, and I'm being very honest, corruption has eaten so deep into the society, so deep into our society, that you have to find a place yourself, and you have to fight for a place for yourself. And I think that we're doing that with our films, with whatever little we have, and things are happening, and then there's a shift happening. So with policy, government policy, I kind of leave that aside and just focus on my work, because there's a lot of politics as well, and I can't play, my creative mind can't play in that space. Just find your voice and be true to your work, and you start seeing like collaborations here are beginning to happen. Like, I'm gonna be in Ghana. Sayibu, I'm coming to your house. Kwasi, I'm coming to your office. You know, Chale, you guys are my brother. There's no Ghana rights, Nigeria rights, whatever, man. Des, we have it going on, right? So I think this collaboration is happening. I'm really excited about it. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very. There is a serious hunger in the young filmmakers.
Yeah.
And so when I have some filmmakers walk to me and talk about the old people and stuff, I said, listen, we are in the era of the new industry. There is a new industry breeding, and the young ones are very hungry. And if the old join, they will have to play catch up some years to come. Desiree, what is your take on this whole collaboration, and what role should directors play in ensuring this?
I mean, I've always been, and I am still an advocate of collaboration, cross-border collaboration, because ultimately, you know, we are building towards a sustainable African film industry, even within our own individual, you know, Namibian film industry or Ghanaian film industry. So to reach that point, I mean, we do have to. I mean, I think that the thing that opened up for me was when I was part of Talents Durban in 2018. And that's when I met, you know, the other filmmakers from across Africa, and having to speak to them and just understanding from that perspective was like, you know what, we actually think the same way and we want the same thing. So I think from that to that point, on my next film, I decided already that I was gonna work cross border. So currently I'm developing the psychological drama, and I'm working with a producer from South Africa and with a screenplay writer from Uganda. And for me, that is really just branching out into Africa, you know, because ultimately in terms of policies, like Emma said, I mean, there's a lot of politics that is within that, you know, and I mean, and not even to start with, each individual country has its own policy already, what they're trying to pass through. And then, and I know I've been part of conversations where they're trying to get from the AU, just, you know, one collective, you know, film policy that caters to the whole, you know, film industry within Africa. And within that is discussions, and it takes long, and I mean, it's been taking a minute. So for us to wait as directors or creators, to wait for those things, yes, we can contribute, you can sort of speak here and there, but to wait for those things to happen, you know, it's gonna take a while. So while that is happening, while those conversations are happening to the from the people that are doing those things, why not we take them that step? You know, why not, you know, because it's about picking up, seeing somebody that you want to work with from the Seychelles, or from, you know, from Senegal, and just pick up, oh, you know, now we have social media, just you find somebody that work that you like, a cinematographer or a director, whatever it is, just the person, you know, like, I've got this project idea that I'm working on, you know, and I would really love for you to be my editor. I would really love for you to work on it as a DOP. And in that way, it's just for us to actually take the step and reach out to fellow filmmakers within the African continent. There's nothing stopping us from when it comes to that, except ourselves. And the worst, I mean, the one thing that I always told myself, the worst thing that they can say is no, and that's cool too. And then I move on to the next thing. So I really, really do believe in, you know, for us to even just build the bigger African narrative, because it's not for now. It's for the future generation. The same way that we were coming up and looking at the stuff that the people that came before us had done, and looking, okay, cool, they have established, so let's build on that. So from where we are building on, it's not looking about, okay, what can I do for now, but like, what am I doing right now that would impact, you know, the future, that would impact the larger context of the African film industry, and the larger context of where I'm living or contributing to the Namibian film industry, and just making it a bit more better and easier access for the next person, the child that is in school right now, the child that is coming up, you know, dreaming or wanting to do this. So it's like, how do I do that? And if that takes for me to get out of myself and touch base however I can, then let's do those things. Let's call up those people that are in other countries and say, I've got this story, do you want to work on it with me?
And can I add something? Des, I really agree with you. I honestly agree with you. And like Des says, is building, and which is building for the next generation. But something came to my mind. I think as Africans, we've been trained to not trust ourselves. Like, Ghanaians are afraid of Nigerians. I don't know why. Like, the way you hear, and when we like, Charlie, we hear Ghanaians like, Charlie, that black guy with his Ghana soap, I beg, waiting they won't bring to the table. Chicken. Look, you know, we are groomed. Our parents have sort of groomed into us not to trust each other as Africans, and there's this fear, right? I know when I was saying, Sayibu comes here, Sayibu was like, this Nigerian, 419, you know, at the back somewhere, you know. I'm not saying it's this one we'll meet somewhere, not inside my house, you know. But you know, we're groomed not to trust ourselves. But look, what is life without taking risk? I'm not saying you shouldn't protect yourself. You know, I'm not saying that I need Shaibu, but I say, you Shaibu, okay, this is my next production, this is the budget, I take the 1 million naira, hold it, you know, let me be thinking of the project. No, we're not saying, I think that we should stop being open. And I'm not saying being stupid, right?
Yeah.
Having conversations with each other, getting a feel of each other, you know. It doesn't mean sending over money. It means, hey, Shaibu, what do you think about this? Opening that lines of conversation gradually to dispel that fear. I'm not saying that in one instant you trust me and next thing I'm, you know, vibing. No. Starting that conversation, taking a step out. And as filmmakers, it's up to us to do that. To reach out to a Francophone filmmaker. Hey, even though the guy, you can't speak French, Google Translate, ça va, oui, entrepreneur, you know, thank you. You know, even if he does not respond, coming out of your comfort zone to do that. And I think that's one thing. And we can be so into our spaces as filmmakers, like we can be so into our world. and be so alone. So I think we should, for filmmakers, get rid of that fear that the Nigerian is going to steal your money. They can, because we're very, very, I know my people, right? It doesn't mean you should be stupid, right, to put your money out there. It just means that opening lines of conversation. Hey, what do you think? Hey, I really like what you're doing. How did you shoot this scene? Or how did you do that? Hey, are you working? I'm going to be in Nigeria. Can we have lunch? Can we talk? Or I'm going through this. And Desiree is like my support. Like, I love Desiree. She has come to mean, and this is what this relationship has opened up, this reaching out to people. I call Desiree and she comforts me when I'm going through like serious things, and we can all build that structure by reaching out and dispelling that fear that generations has put in us. I'm not saying being stupid, but opening up that line of conversation. Yeah.
Very, 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 very important. I for one believe that to start up this whole collaboration stuff, we need to just begin, like you rightly said, begin to just reach out to each other. Let's just start by just the highs, the hellos. I like your work, I like your work. You are doing amazing, you are doing amazing. I'm in Nigeria, can we just get coffee? Can we do that? Can we do that? Now, with what Desiree is doing, having her script writer in Uganda, having producer in South Africa, right? This is how we break into the market. This is how we break the barriers, the boundaries. Because honestly, like Emma said, we cannot fighting the policies of this government and then this whole African bilateral ECOWAS nonsense is too much for a film creative to begin to think about. You understand? And if we want to fight this war, it will take us decades. However, we can begin to break those barriers for ourselves gradually between ourselves by, interdepending on ourselves for projects, consulting each other, taking opinions, like Sayibu said, taking opinions, second approvals, watching first cuts. These are the ways we break those barriers. And I'm very glad that all of us as the young filmmakers are very much open. And like Emma said, we are less concerned about the money and more particular about reaching out there with the right stories. Because right now we are at the place where whatever we will do, we would be exposed. The little mistake we do, we are going to be exposed because we are on the international platform. We cannot keep playing on we cannot bring our local game onto this new platform. It's a different whole ball game altogether. And so it's time that we all begin to participate, we all begin to collaborate, talk to each other and find the best way forward. And so this brings me to my last question, which is definitely going to be your last words to the general filmmaking fraternity, the African cinema, or the African film industry as a whole, practitioners, fellow filmmakers, probably actors, because you guys work a lot closely with actors, and I'm very much passionate about them as well. So, some words of advice to them, and throw some words of advice to them, and let's hear your last words. Who is going to start? Who is going to earn this for me? Who is going to start for me? Sayibu, you ready? Or Emma?
No, Sayibu, let Sayibu start.
Okay, let's. I think at this time, let's all put on our microphones and let's run let's talk for the next 5, 10 minutes.
Yeah, Desiree can
go.
Yeah.
Let me start. Okay, so I know we are like Namibia is at the bottom, but guys, come on. Can I go first? Anyway, so I mean, the thing is, like, when I started off, when I started decided like I want to do this film, I had no idea what I was doing, to be like, honestly. I knew I had this story, and then obviously speaking to my co-collaborators, Michael and Gurley, I wasn't even thinking of directing it, because I felt like you know, I had to go through certain things to even just think of directing. So I was even busy looking. We were busy looking for a director until that one day, just like, but if you don't give yourself an opportunity, then who will? So then I called them up. I'm like, guys, like, I really want to direct. And then they're like, sure, no problem, you know. But then I knew that I did not know anything. So I had to go self-educate myself in terms of just what cinematography is and lighting and all of those things. So I had to do all of those things. And yes, you know, I am looking at my film now. There's a lot of stuff that what I know now that I feel like, oh, goodness gracious, what did you do? You know, you could have done so much better over there or over here. But I mean, this is all part of the process. So my advice is, I think it's just like, if you don't believe in yourself and just get up and do it, you will learn along the way. You will make mistakes. You know, you know, when you go watch your film, you would literally feel like, what the heck did I just create? But it's still okay, because what you feel is such a disaster to somebody else. They'll be like, yo, I love what you did. You know, I love the story that you told. So if you don't just get up and do it, if you don't get up and tell the story the way you want to tell it, the way because you can only tell a story, you can only do something from the level of your knowledge and where you are and what you have taught yourself and what you have gained. And then from there, the next thing becomes better. The next thing becomes better. So get up, believe in what you want to do, believe in the story that you want to tell, but also understand the market, understand the industry that you are in. And then have a vision as to what is it, like Sayibu and Emma said, what type of filmmaker do you want to be? Where do you want to go? Have that in mind, and not just go with the wind of like, okay, cool, I want to do this because I want to be part of, you know, it seems like a cool, because this is really hard. Like, I'm not even going to lie to you. Filmmaking is difficult. You're gonna have moments where you just like, why am I even doing this to myself? Why am I bothering with this, you know? But then if you love it enough, you get up and continue. If you love it, if you truly love this, you get up, and you must really love this industry too, because otherwise, what are we doing? Because it is difficult. Financing in itself, try and find that is difficult. To working with, you know, cast and crew is not, it's challenging. Having your film to be out there, to be distributed, is challenging, but you need to educate yourself about the industry, about the market, about, you know, just distribution, exhibition, just as filmmaking as a whole, you know, just lenses and cinematography, just all of those things you need to teach yourself. You need to know, so that you know it on what playing field are you playing on, and not just come in there and, you know, like a bull in a china shop. But yeah, it's difficult. It really is difficult. But you really need. But then if we don't do it, then who will? So just get up and do it. That's it.
Amazing. Just get up and do it. Just go out there.
Yep.
And
I had to
your
learn
story,
on YouTube.
how your voice. Great. Emma, you want to do us the honors?
I kind of feel like what I would say is, I think that first things first, I think one thing we all need to start realizing is that filmmakers have now become brands. You're no longer the intellectual guy who sits and sips teas in a cafe and watches the world pass by and whisper to your pen. You know, no, we're no longer that. You have to build your brand as a filmmaker, and you have to consider you yourself as a business and your film as a product. And it's just, as a small business, how do I attract investors to my product? People will not put money in places where they see it will not grow. So you take a small product, you start small and you scale up. So a lot of people do this. They go, oh, I want to make a film, and they get like massive money. Look, if you don't have the backing, you lose that money. And investors will not come to put money into your product because you don't have a brand and you don't have a track record. So as filmmakers, please start thinking of yourself as a brand. You know, start fighting for your online platforms. Start putting your name and your face out there, and not just putting empty words. Start shooting small and getting people to come to look at what you're doing and grow from there, scale up from there. You know, Kasala was shot. Before Kasala, I've had a lot of failures. But Kasala is that product that people are looking at now to give me money to shoot my next film because I was able to get it on Netflix. So start small and think of yourself as a brand, and the sky is your limit.
Yeah.
Amazing. Start small, think the sky, and go out there and do something. We are always saying go out there and do something. Take the camera.
Yes.
Let us hear your voice. Let us see who you are as a filmmaker. Put yourself out there. I'm Sayibu. You are gonna close
I
this
feel
up for
like
us.
I feel like they have sort of touched on all of it, but I guess the little that I can add to that is that, you know, when she says you should figure out your brand and everything, I get exactly what she's saying. But for those who don't get it, let me break it down for what she's saying. She's not saying start now without a product and start telling everybody that you're the best of the best of the best. Because that is something that I've seen. Like that is the common thing, right? Like everybody, they put the horse before they put the cart before the horse. Right? And
Yeah.
you gotta have the product, and then you can let everybody know I did that. You get it, and that is your brand. You get it, like what she said. She had a whole lot of different things going on, but then with Kasala right now, it's like the thing, you know. But that doesn't mean she doesn't have a history. But now she gets to be like, yo, yeah, I did that. It's on Netflix, man. You know, now you get it, and that's the brand.
Yeah.
She can push that brand, and I think that for a lot of people coming up, that's the little detail that we forget. You know, we forget that small detail. It's like, yeah, push yourself. And we all say that, and I say that all the time. But I realized a lot of people take the wrong thing from from that one, you know. So you see someone, they've not yet finished their first script, they've not done anything, but they're out there telling everybody they're the next whatever, right? Or they're the guy, or you know, I'm a director. Look at me, and, you know, and it's sort of like it's so frustrating because it kind of. But then they don't understand when people like Emma are going ahead. And they're like, but I'm doing the same thing. But dude, you don't have Kasala. Think about it. You get it? You gotta have that commodity so you can be that person. You don't have what Desiree has. Sorry that I keep blanking on the name, but I'm definitely gonna watch it wherever I can find it. So forgive me. But you know, but like I said, you know, like
the white line.
The white line, yes. You know, so you gotta have these things that you can use to push, like she said, have the good stuff, and then make sure you're always pushing your brand and your voice, because that is the thing, that's your commodity as a creative. It's what makes you different. You get it? When any producer is going to be looking at us, they're trying to see, okay, what are we going to get Emma for? What are we going to get Desiree for? Hey, you know, Patty Jenkins doesn't want to do Wonder Woman anymore, but we saw White Line, so, you know, we think she might be able to handle it. Let's go get Desiree. You see what I'm saying? They're like, yo, you know, we're thinking about Captain Marvel. We're trying to figure out what other female we can get. We want a female director. And we've seen Kasala, right? So we know that Emma can tell a story. So that's the brand. And that is what they mean when they say the brand. It's not your, you know, glamour pictures and, you know, what people go take their professional pictures and all that stuff. And they think that is what pushing the brand is about. Every 2 minutes, you see their picture, I'm a director, da, 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 da. No, it's not your picture we're looking for. You know, we're looking for your work to show that you're a director. That's why I always say I'm a student, so I can get away with everything. But that's my little 2 cents, man. Like, I think the ladies said a lot, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, and get used to rejection, because you're gonna get a lot of those.
Yep. That's the name of the game. If you don't have tough skin, don't even try. Rejection is like that's your bread and butter.
That should be the fuel, honestly.
Yeah,
that should be the fuel.
Especially in the African film industry, you can get like a 2,000 no's and then a 1 yes.
Yes, so, man. Adam did that to us.
Especially when you don't make a love story or a comedy.
Yep. Nobody sees the viability.
When it's not comedy or when it's not love, you know. No, they're gonna get a lot of no's. But like we all have been saying right here, listen, Netflix is in Africa. Amazon is looking, Hulu is coming, all the other guys are looking to Africa. What they're looking for is not our regular game we've been playing. They are looking for the new creative voices, people who have a story, that unique story, to tell. We cannot play this new game with the old. Even the Bible says you can't put how you call it.
New wine into old
you can't
skin.
put new wine into an old wine skin. You've got to change it.
Yep.
Man, you got to change it. So
Yeah, man.
we cannot play. We can't keep playing the same way we've been playing. It's time to up our game, collaborate, find the best way to put our voices out there, and make sure that we are part of this, rebranding or no, it's not rebranding. Evolving narrative of the African cinema. Guys, I cannot say thank you enough. You guys have been an amazing panelist. The level of knowledge we've shared today is just mind-blowing. I just want to thank you guys for your time, and let's keep talking and let's keep building the community as we are all saying. This will be my goodbye, unless there's anything else you guys want to put out there. We've got curtains officially on today's meeting.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And how do I get everybody's contact? I have their contact. So
I think he's tagged us on the thing. So I'm actually gonna look through that.
I'll share.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna share everybody's contact with everybody.
When I come to Ghana, I'm coming for that kenke.
For that kenke.
No, Sayibu has a big house, so don't worry. He'll accommodate you.
Yo, of course, throw me under the bus.
All right, Charlie, thank you very much. And I'm so glad we are all part of the new African film industry. God bless us all. God bless Africa, and God bless the film industry. Have a good night, and I salute you all.
All right. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.